I really am going to give it a bit of time.
Why would you have a meltdown over Garnacho? I don't. Is anybody having a meltdown?
Why would anyone have a meltdown though?
I don't understand. Hold on. Can you clarify?
All over social media, all I am seeing is the level of meltdown from Man United fans. Some Man United fans is the club's coming to an end. Selling Garnacho is the worst thing that we've ever done. How are we going to progress and go forward if we're selling our young players? I'll tell you how. Where I will agree with you is we don't use that money to buy other players, and if those new recruits aren't as good in the medium to long term. And this is what's crazy. One of the stories about Garnacho leaving today, and we'll see if it comes to fruition, okay? I don't like to disregard things straight away, but there's talk that we may be offered Osimhen as part of the deal. Now, for me, right, if Garnacho leaves and we get, say, £10 million and we get Osimhen, I can't look at that and say, oh, Man United are dead. It doesn't make me feel that way. I can't lie about it.
No, but why are people upset about this? This reminds me of people who act like we're upset if we'd sell Darwin Núñez. Like, I just don't get it. Like, why are we upset here? Like, why is people are just upset for the sake of it? Listen, if a player works out at another club, it doesn't matter. He didn't work out at yours. This is something that Lewis kept saying when Havertz like had that run at Arsenal. He was like, it doesn't matter if he's scoring goals for Arsenal because he never scored it for us. That's the thing that matters. So when it comes to Garnacho, as a United fan, you can't be upset if he goes to Napoli and scores like 20 goals or whatever, because he never did it for you. He never scored for your club at that level, at that high of a level. When it comes to Garnacho, listen, you have way too many experimental players right now at Man United. You don't have time for this shit. Amarim said it's the worst Man United ever, and he included himself, and rightfully so, because of the levels that they're performing at. And by the way, Garnacho came on in the last game against Brighton and did worse than any forward did on the football pitch. He was poor little kids in Old Trafford were getting just hit by his shots. Every single time he shot a shot, it landed on someone's face. You get me? So like, this is the thing when it comes to Garnacho. At some point in time, you have to just acknowledge that improvement and potential and all this. You have to show it.
Yeah.
And you can't
what potential? What potential? Where is the potential?
But do you know what it is? But do you know what you should do, Mo, in this conversation is just be objective and say, I understand they think there's potential in the player. But the same, for me, the argument isn't about debating whether or not Garnacho's got potential or not, whether he's got potential or not. I hear your point. For me, it's about people are angry because they're not seeing their ideology. They're not seeing their opinions come out. There's a friend of mine who does a lot of spaces, and I heard him on about 3 or 4 spaces for about 7 months saying, as soon as we get a proper coach with a real footballing structure, you watch my boy as Rashford, you watch my boy as Garnacho, you watch him fly. We've kind of got all the things in place that he was asking for, but it's just the key football decision makers, not the bankers, not the marketers, not the advertising specialists. The key football decision makers are making key football decisions. And because they don't marry up with his personal ideology, his view on what he wants the players and who he wants them to be, he's fuming. They don't know what they're doing. And I just look at it and think, you could be right. And this is what I'm saying, that you could be right. I am just not going to shed loads of energy being angry, throwing my toys out the pram until I see it come to the... I'll give you an example. This is what it reminds me of. Imagine today, you and I, Mo, we go down to the local garden centre and we buy some seeds. And these seeds are going to turn into beautiful lemon trees. I like a lemon, nice bit of lemon, and a bit of water. I love a bit of lemon. Use it in food, cooking, prep, salads, everything. Great. This is what Man United fans are doing. They're getting home, getting out the plant pot, they're putting in the soil, putting in the seed. And every day this is, they're walking up to the plant pot, seeing just dirt, and they're screaming at it, where the fuck's my tree? They're ringing up the garden centre. I bought some seeds from you a week ago. Still no tree. Sir, it takes about 3 years for the tree to develop. Fuck you, I've got standards. It's all just bullshit. They are screaming at something to be ready when it can't be. Man United were never going to go from what we are to being a team that can consistently compete for a league and fingers crossed win it like this. It was never going to happen. And then on top of that, what you see is people's ideologies and their sort of fantasies not being lived out. Some people think, I thought when you get new owners, You start spending loads of money. They pay debts off. Can't be done. The Qataris couldn't do it either. You can pay the debt off, but that is, according to Kieran Maguire, I'm only going by the expert's words, anything you pay off that then the owners invest into and pay off that leads to more profit is offset for PSR, which means you still can't spend. The only way to increase the expenditure, the amount you can expend on players, is to increase revenue and to make savings at the football club. Hello, baby. You have a good day at school? Oh, I'll see you in a little while, baby. So from my point of view, you see people that I think they really thought, we've got new owners, we're going to spend big, buy all these stars. No, you fool. You didn't listen to the experts in the first place.
This INEOS topic is very sensitive for you, I can tell.
No, it's not, forget INEOS. It's not about INEOS. It's about listening to what some of the experts, they tell half a story sometimes. Oh, United are making cutbacks. That's really bad. And I saw one yesterday that we're taking away some of the salary of 3 ambassadors, 3 legends, Brian Robson, Dennis Irwin, Andy Cole. People are getting mental. And I'm like, I asked a question. I got so much heat for it. I went, what's the net worth of those three individuals? And what was their salary? And what are they being put onto? Why does that matter? Well, if they're broke and they were being paid 30 grand a year, and now they're being told they're only going to get £15,000 a year, I said, I feel really bad for them because they're legends. So, but if they've got net worths of 3, 4, 5, 6 million pounds each, and they were getting paid 200 grand a year, and now they're getting £150,000 a year, I don't care because they're already rich, and I don't care that they're having a slight deduction, right? For me, everything is feast or famine. It's either the best thing in the world or it's the worst thing ever. And I just think so much of it is exaggerated, but it comes from, and I've criticized loads of things INEOS have done. I don't like the ticket price increase they've done. I don't like the deduction from charities that they've done. I've condemned it. I will continue to condemn it. If they increase the prices further, I'll condemn them again. I'll absolutely do it. But there's so many other things they're doing which are normal in our circumstance. When you listen to the rules around PSR and you listen to the rules around FFP, there's also, they ignore all the other things, though. There's a reason that Man United's owners have pushed, for instance, for the spending cap to be increased, because they believe they can save money, increase the revenues over a number of years, to then be in a point to spend even more. But they don't want the spending cap to be in place, because then they can raise all the extra income and save money to spend on players. But if the cap's there, it's all immaterial. People have just not got any patience. And if they don't see things being done, oh, that's not the football director I wanted. That isn't the player I wanted. That isn't the striker that I think's good. No one can be objective anymore and just say, okay, don't like that. Let's sit back and see what happens. At least give it a little bit of time and patience. You don't.
I watched what you said to Hugh. I watched what you said to Hugh and Chris, and I think that was the wrong approach. Today, you've taken the right approach of not mentioning other clubs, just addressing your own club.
What do you mean?
The stuff that they've done. I'll tell you what I mean. When that conversation started, and you had the conversation last time with them, it was basically saying like, oh, Arsenal aren't even on the list of charities, blah, blah, blah. I think sometimes as football fans, we are expected to talk about our own club. Like, that's just the unfortunate reality. This is something that you, Terry Flowers, will experience for the next 2-3 years under this INEOS thing, until they get it right, until they sort it. You will have to answer these questions. Same way I have to answer for what FSG do. Same way, like, Don has to answer for what Clear Lake does. Sometimes we do have to be a representation of our clubs and explain / criticize / praise the stuff that they've done. That's why from an INEOS perspective, you are expected as a Man United fan to clarify / explain / condemn / praise. And you have done that. You have condemned certain things. You have praised certain things. And that's how it should be. Now, I understand what they're saying with the people saying the conversations are either black or white, black or white, black or white. But you need to understand, football fans are reactionary emotional. This is a part. The whole point of being a football fan is being able to be reactionary emotional. Now, the problem is with the ownership conversations, you can't be reactionary or emotional, but people are. So people are looking at the INEOS tenure so far with them as owners and going like, listen, over this last 6 months, couple of weird decisions, hiring this guy and then sacking him a little bit later, not sacking the manager and then giving him a transfer window, could have sacked him earlier, got an Amarim in the summer, blah, blah, blah. So people are putting essentially multiple different points together as a means to say INEOS in general are shit. That's basically what's happening, because it's like the ambassador thing, the Ferguson thing, the prices, the stadium, and the Ten Hag thing, and the other guy that he got from Newcastle thing. So all of them are a pylon of things put together to explain that INEOS aren't good owners. That's basically the perspective.
But this is wrong. Can I respond to this? This is wrong because Chelsea owners in the beginning made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of us sit here and say that at the end, the Chelsea owners got some aspects right of the football. That's why Chelsea today sit fourth in the Premier League. They're 4 points behind title contenders Arsenal. So INEOS, for some whatever reason, I hear what you're saying, Sam. For some whatever reasons, Man United owners in rivals' eyes are not allowed to make mistakes. But Chelsea owners, yes, you criticize him, but
this is actually in Man United eyes more. That's the problem.
Yeah, the problem is,
I would
say, yes, INEOS made mistakes. I actually sat here with Terry and I argued with him about the Ten Hag staying. It's a massive mistake at the club. But so were Todd Bowley and these guys. They made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, right? And they hired this guy and they got this player and that player. I think the problem with the Man United fans is that he expected an example of a Qatari owner to come in and turn the club around within a month or two. That won't happen, right? That's never going to happen. But we can criticize, but you can't just say, oh, they failed already. That doesn't work like this. Man City freaking signed Robinho in the first one, like San Adiba. They signed everyone in the beginning. Yeah. And then they learned that, by the way, we need to win, to dominate, we need to build.
And this is so true. And there's a few things. I hope Sam can still hear me. I know he turned his camera off. When I mentioned in front of Chris and Hugh about other fans and other clubs, there's a reason for it, which didn't come across very well. And that's my fault for not explaining it correctly. So I'll clarify. When rivals have pointed the finger at Man United for increasing prices, cutting Sir Alex Ferguson's money, taking that £50,000 from charities, in my humble opinion, 80, maybe even a higher percentage than that, of rivals pointing fingers don't care morally what Man United do. It's a point scoring exercise. And the reason I believe that they don't morally care is because I see zero energy from the vast majority of them towards their own football clubs. So it's not whataboutery in terms of it's okay for my club to do it because your club does it. I'm simply pointing out, I think some people take a pseudo-moralistic stance and pretend to be outraged as a way of battering a football club. We saw this from Newcastle fans. Many of them online for years criticized Man City for having money from the Middle East. And the money from the Middle East is tarnished for X, Y, and Z reasons. They got money from the Middle East and they said, I don't care because we're rich now. So that's why I mentioned other clubs, because I don't think people morally care as much as they pretend to. But the same
can I just say one thing on that? Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Do you think this also, the problem with your club is, this isn't a rival thing? Your own fans do this to your own club.
So I'm about to get to that. So the rival thing is this. The reason I brought up rivals is because I don't believe the majority of them care. If they did, they'd have even more energy for their own clubs. Because if you're that morally grounded, and even Hugh said himself, he basically said, I've come to terms with the fact that my club Arsenal is built upon corruption anyway, which I find personally, I like the honesty, but I almost don't understand it. If I felt my club was built on corruption, I'd probably find another team to support. But each to their own, right? You fall in love. It is what it is, right? Fair play. Man United fans as well that are moaning about all these things that they hate the club doing. If we start winning trophies next year, none of them are going to go, oh, you know what? I love seeing the Premier League being lifted. Oh, the 4th Champions League's here, but we can't celebrate because Andy Cole lost 50% of his salary as an ambassador a few years ago. This is the problem I have with people and the way they behave, is that if we start winning, they won't give a fuck, which is why I think, again, the vast majority of people moaning online, it is performative and it is pseudo-moralistic. I don't think they really care. There's a few people. So there's a kind of a TV presenter, political commentator, I think he does now, a guy called Terry Christian, who's a United fan. He is someone who is very consistent with his views, and I think he still will say something. So there are some that do. And by the way, if you're someone that will still care when we win, don't be offended because I ain't fucking talking about you. The vast majority, when we start winning trophies, they will pretend they never criticized. They'll pretend that we never did anything immoral. They won't care about the redundancies. They won't care about the increased ticket prices. They won't care it's £100 for a shirt. They won't care how Sir Jim makes his money. They won't care that he wanted Brexit. They'll just be saying, we are winning. The same as all the other clubs that have been taken over by billionaires from different regions of the world, or that have made their money doing things that the world disagrees with, or through an industry the world hates. Once they start winning, nobody gives a shit. So that's what I'm pushing back against. Just like the Qatar World Cup. I understand there's problems with inside the nation of Qatar. I know that because I know there's problems inside my own country, as an example. But was I going to cover the World Cup games? Yes. Therefore, was I going to make money off of this World Cup? Yes. That, for me, tells me I have no high ground to stand on to point fingers and act all high and fucking mighty. And that's my problem with a lot of people. They want to pretend they're a good... Oh, look at me. I'm a good person. Oh, I hate this. I hate that. It's easy to hate on Man United when we're crap as a United fan. If and when we start winning again, no one in the match reaction is going to talk about any of this shit. They're just going to say, oh, look at my club, my manager, my number 7. So just fucking drop it now unless you're going to continue it the whole time. That's my problem. And people say waffle, waffle, waffle. You know I'm speaking the fucking truth on this. I don't believe most people are that offended. I really, really don't. And that's more what I'm pushing back against. The kind of performative bollocks that I see every fucking day when it comes to football. And we do it all the time. You know, we do it all the time. Some people... maybe they'll maintain it, but I doubt when we start winning, they'll be bringing up any... Man United fans are case in point. When we were winning trophies under Sir Alex, there was only a handful of Man United fans talking about the Glazers. Only a handful. Most people didn't give a fuck. It went through stages when there wasn't money being spent and debt was increased, and you see the green and gold scarf. There was a period of time where it was being done, but the vast majority... I used to go to games all the time. When it was fashionable, the green and gold scarves were being swung around. There was loads of other times where no one really cared. No one cared that much, if I'm being honest. I was there. I was living in Manchester at the time. I remember when it first happened, when I first moved to Manchester. I remember I worked with a guy who was his family, generations going to the games. I remember him fuming. This was the Monday morning after the FA Cup final. And they tried to do this thing, United fans, where they wanted to go to, I think it might have been the final was in Cardiff then. Might have still been at Wembley, but he said we're all going to go and we're trying to make everyone wear black as a kind of funeral. It's a death for Man United because these Glazers are taking over. And I remember him fuming. He said the amount of people that didn't do it, as an example, right? So I was there, I lived it, and I just feel there are loads of people that do care, and I'm not addressing you. If you care, and you will always care, then you're on my side because we're calling out the people that don't, but pretend to because it's fashionable in the moment. They get on my tits, these people. They really, really do. And yes, it is a meltdown, if you want to call it that. For me, it's the other way. It's just calling out the hypocrisy. You know, if you're a fan of Arsenal and you're so morally outraged about the bad things my club does, that's fine. But I expect that energy across the board for all clubs, not just when it... And we see this all the time. I've got Liverpool fans have called out before. Oh, bruv, you seen this news? Your club's in the mud, did it? Bruv, that's from the Sun. Yeah. I thought you said the Sun, the Sun is something we should all ignore. Oh, you mean you only ignore it if it suits your purpose? Come on now. Like you've either got to have integrity on these things or you don't. I don't think you can sit in between on this. So for me, I know I'm going to keep covering Man United. I know I'm going to keep covering football. So if the Super League happens, shit. Am I going to cover the games? Yes. Therefore, am I going to condemn it massively? No. Because then if I start covering the games, I'm the biggest hypocrite going. It's just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, let's go to some of these comments that are coming through here. So that's my stance on it. I don't think selling Garnacho is that bad. To wrap that up, I don't think it's that bad.
Well, that is a plot twist.
Yeah. Toxic positivity. No, I don't think it is toxic positivity because I'm not saying people can't have criticisms. What I'm saying is don't drop your moral high ground if and when Man United start winning. Don't ignore what was sacrificed to get to that winning.